In today's video, I am going to teach you how to etch glass using a stencil made with your Cricut. This video is going to walk you through all the steps, how to make a simple stencil, and the easiest way to etch glass, giving you a beautiful look on anything from a simple jar to anything made of glass in your home. If you want to learn how to etch glass, stick around. I've got the full tutorial coming right up. Hey there, I'm Sarah and you are watching Creative Ramblings, where I share simple, inspiring projects. From easy crafts to seasonal home decor and all kinds of Cricut tutorials, you're gonna find new videos right here every week. If that sounds like something you wanna see, consider subscribing so you don't miss my next video. Today we're gonna learn how to etch glass using a Cricut stencil. So etching glass is done with a simple cream just like this, and I'm going to show you how to put it on glass so it leaves a permanent frosted stencil. I'm going to be etching 3 of these little jars to use in my kitchen for some much needed spices and salts that I use in cooking every day. So I want to keep these jars right on my counter, I want to label them, and I want them to look good. So the first thing we're going to do is cut a stencil with our Cricut. I'm using a Cricut Explore Air 2, and I am going to use some stencil material. I have links to all the products I'm using today right down in the description. You can also use removable vinyl for this process as well, but I'm going to show you how to do it with stencil vinyl. So the first thing we want to do is open up Design Space on a computer or a phone and start making these stencils.
So open up Design Space on your computer or phone, choose the text button on the left, and we're going to type the words that we want on the jars. So we're going to start with sea salt. Once I have it typed, I'm going to go up and select a font. Now I am choosing a stencil font. This means that I won't have to use transfer tape. It's a really easy font to use when you are making a stencil or when you're just starting out. So choose that font. Then I want to go up to the top here and resize this. I've measured my jars and I know I want my stencil to be 2 inches wide by 1 inch tall. Once I have that set, I'm going to duplicate this so I have the right font, and I'm going to type out the other words that I want. I'm using these jars to hold sea salt, raw sugar, and spicy red pepper. And then I am going to go down and highlight everything and then hit attach. This keeps all of these spaced evenly for when I'm ready to cut. Now I'm just going to go up in the right here and hit make it. That will send it over to my Cricut Explore Air 2. Before I do that, I do want to move my words just over a little bit so I have a nice border around each word. I don't want this to cut right up against the edge. Now we're ready to continue.
All right, so I've got the vinyl or the stencil material attached to my mat. I'm just gonna load it in and let this cut. All right, so I have my stencils cut here. I'm gonna flip the mat over and pull off the vinyl or the stencil material like this. It's the best way to pull anything off of your Cricut mat. Now we're just gonna weed these out. Weeding is just the process of taking out all the pieces of the stencil where I want the etching cream to go. It can be kind of a tedious process, but once you get the hang of it, it goes pretty quick. All right, now that our stencil is weeded, we are going to apply it to our jar. So the first thing I'm gonna do is grab a scissor and cut a few little slits on the corners and the edges of my stencil. What this does is allows me to apply a flat stencil to a curved surface. This jar is not very curved, but it does have some curving on the edges, and I want it to lay flat. This trick works really well if you are putting it on a drinking glass or something that's rounded. So to prep our jar, I'm going to grab just a paper towel and a little bit of rubbing alcohol and clean it up. This is just going to ensure that any leftover oils or anything like that are off of the jar. now it's time to apply the stencil. So because we used a stencil font, we can just peel this off and put it right on the jar. If I had used a more intricate font, then I would use transfer tape to move this stencil over to the jar, just like you would with vinyl. All right, so I've got it on here. Just gonna lay this down flat and apply the stencil. I'm gonna start with the middle, push the middle down, and then work my way out. And then I'm just gonna push down. And do you see where these curved edges are? I can kind of push one down and then lay this one over the top. It just allows everything to lay nice and flat. So I wanna make sure that there's no air bubbles and this is a nice tight seal. Okay, now that the stencil is on there really well, it is time to put on the etching cream. So here's what you'll need. Grab something to protect your surface. We don't wanna get any of the etching cream on the desk here. I am going to put on a pair of gloves to protect my hands. This is a very strong substance we're using and we don't want it to touch your skin. Grab my etching cream here and a paintbrush. Now you can also do this with a craft stick. I like using a paintbrush. So etching cream is kind of a thick substance. And again, I've linked this down in the description down below so you can take a look at it. But let me show you what it looks like here. It's kind of just a thick goo almost. So what we're gonna do is just take a big glob of it and start putting it on the stencil. We're not necessarily painting it on here so much as we're just applying it. Making sure that every opening of the stencil is covered. You can see why it's important to have a border around your stencil, around here, because anywhere that this etching cream touches, it's going to etch. You're gonna get that beautiful frosted glass look. All right, everything is covered. I am going to let this sit for 15 minutes and then we will come back and I'll show you how to get all of this off of there. I'm gonna go wash my brush right away with my gloves. Make sure that this doesn't touch your skin. All right, it's been 15 minutes. We're gonna go run this under some water and rinse off the etching cream. So wearing your gloves, you're just gonna run this under water and wipe off that cream. Leave the stencil on while you do this portion. And once everything is washed off, then we can peel back this stencil. You can start to see your creation right away. I'm gonna rinse it off one more time, make sure we got any of that etching cream off. Give it a good wash with soap and water, and you are good to go. So now that my glasses are all done and they are cleaned up, I'm able to take some of these seasonings that I use often and store them in these containers. I like being able to use a little spoon or even just my fingers to take a pinch when I use them in cooking. And they're gonna look great just sitting out on my counter. Creating stencils with your Cricut and using etching cream to etch those stencils permanently onto glass is something you can apply to any glass surface you have. Think about a shadow box, a picture frame, a jar, a storage container, even wine glasses. You can use this technique for a lot of different things. Be sure to check out all the products I used today in the description of this video. You can find links to etching cream and all the Cricut products. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up, let me know down in the comments, and consider subscribing for more videos just like this. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.